Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to welcome the arrival of His Excellency Olaf Scholz, Federal Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, and Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Please be seated. May I now invite Prime Minister Lee to deliver his remarks, please. Prime Minister.
Chancellor Olaf Scholz, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everybody. I'm very happy to welcome the Chancellor back. This is his first visit as Federal Chancellor, but Mr. Scholz is very familiar with Singapore. I first met him when he came for the World Cities Summit in 2016. Then he was the first mayor of Hamburg. And most recently, we met in Rome during the G20 summit last year, together with then-Chancellor Angela Merkel, and very happy to have the chance to meet him again today and to host him today. Chancellor Scholz has been busy traveling in our region. He visited China earlier this month. He was in Vietnam yesterday and will be at the G20 summit in Bali tomorrow. It reflects Germany's strong interest in our region, and I'm very happy to have this chance to spend some time with him and to exchange views on global trends and regional developments. Chancellor Scholz and I reaffirmed our excellent bilateral relations. Our economic links stayed strong throughout the pandemic. Germany is Singapore's largest trading partner in the EU and one of our most important foreign investors. The Chancellor brought a high-level business delegation with him, and there are over 2,100 German companies in Singapore. We are also delighted that Singapore hosted the flagship 17th Asia-Pacific Conference on German Business, also known as the APK, here this week. The APK's themes, diversification and sustainability, strongly resonate with Singapore and with the region. During COVID-19, Germany was one of the first countries with which we launched a vaccinated travel lane. We worked closely to uphold vaccine multilateralism. And I'm very glad that BioNTech, which is headquartered in Mainz, will establish its first regional hub in Singapore. Our defense ties are warm and growing. SAF troops participate in exercise Panzer Strike, hosted biannually in Oberlausitz, in the state of Saxony. The German Navy frigate Bayern made an extended port call here last December, and this year the Luftwaffe conducted its largest peacetime deployment, Exercise Rapid Pacific, and a contingent of Luftwaffe Eurofighter jets twice stopped over in Singapore. So we have tri-service ties. Germany is also a valued defense tech partner. We greatly appreciate the German government's continued support for Singapore's access to German defense technologies and equipment, such as the Leopard 2 main battle tanks and also submarines. In fact, I will be visiting Kiel in Germany next month for the launch of 2 of the RSN's new Type 218 SG submarines. Chancellor Scholz and I agreed to grow our relations further. Yesterday, our ministers signed the Germany-Singapore Framework for Sustainability and Innovation. This will deepen our economic partnership and in particular promote private sector-led collaborations across various areas. Today we endorsed a joint declaration, Partners for a Resilient and Sustainable Future. It builds on the declaration which I signed with then-Chancellor Merkel in 2005. It covers digitalization, the future of manufacturing, Industry 4.0, vocational education, science and technology, sustainable development, and the green economy. It's a comprehensive blueprint for new and emerging areas of cooperation. The Chancellor and I also exchanged views on regional and global issues. Singapore welcomes Germany's consistent engagement of our region under its Indo-Pacific policy guidelines. On Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Singapore's position is firm and clear. Like Germany, we staunchly support international law and the UN Charter, which prohibits acts of aggression against a sovereign state. Like-minded partners such as Singapore and Germany need to work closely together on the common challenges confronting Asia and Europe. We will continue to act within the framework of multilateralism led by the United Nations to uphold and strengthen a rules-based international order and promote peace, stability, and cooperation. And being export-oriented economies, we will maintain free trade and an open multilateral rules-based trading system with the WTO at its core. I look forward to working with the Chancellor and his government to advance our partnership, both bilaterally and at multilateral fora, and to meeting him again in Germany soon to continue our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. May I now invite Chancellor Scholz to deliver his remarks. Chancellor, please.
Guten Tag auch von meiner Seite.
I wish you a good afternoon too. The second stop of my Asia trip has brought me to Singapore today. The city conceives of itself as a gateway to the whole of Asia. I first addressed the participants of the Asia-Pacific Conference of German Business, which brings together hundreds of entrepreneurs, but also political decision-makers and decision-makers from the whole of Asia. The dominating themes of this conference are climate protection, digitization, and diversification. There's hardly a better place than Singapore for such an event, because Singapore has been endeavoring to advance these topics on a daily basis. More than 2,000 German companies are present in Singapore, and the city exudes dynamism, innovative strength, and energy, as I have been able to witness with my own eyes when I came here on an earlier visit. This conference has brought home one thing quite clearly, and the Prime Minister and I talked about this in greater depth, and that is that we are facing global challenges these days that affect both the world of business and politics. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has brought home to us the consequences of strategic dependencies. The watershed moment is a reminder of the need to reduce dependencies and to minimize risks, and to diversify our political and economic ties. In order to do this, we intend to cooperate with reliable and trustworthy partners, especially here in the Indo-Pacific region. Singapore and Germany have excellent relations, which rest on this shared foundation of a common commitment to international law and multilateralism. And we want to build on this. Today, we agreed a joint declaration which is to provide concrete impulses for a further deepening of our cooperation, especially in the important fields with an importance to our future: climate protection, connectivity, digital research and innovation. One example of the areas in which we cooperate is the area of climate protection, and we talked today in greater depth about the need to end our dependency on fossil fuels in order to stop man-made climate change. Singapore has submitted new ambitious NDC targets and aims to enhance the share of renewables. Singapore already hosts one of the biggest floating solar plants in the world. These are all positive signs that are hopeful, I believe. Of course, today we also touched upon important international and regional issues and questions. We had an intensive exchange of views on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and the global impact that war has. Singapore and Germany are in complete agreement as concerns the fact that the Russian violation of international law cannot be justified. Russia has to end this war immediately, to withdraw its troops, and to be ready to engage in peace negotiations. We also talked about the situation in the Indo-Pacific. Recent developments bear the risk of a new polarization and serious escalation. We believe that the right path is to strengthen partnerships with those who, like us, stand up for respect for international law, and in so doing avoid one-sided dependencies. It's not about decoupling ourselves. It's about maintaining reliable and resilient supply chains. We enhance our security policy cooperation in the clear awareness that our engagement and commitment is inclusive, and our offer to cooperate extends to all partners in the region. For us, ASEAN is a central actor with regard to a rules-based order, cooperation, and a greater balance in the region. The relations between Singapore and Germany are close, and we both aim to deepen them further. Prime Minister Lee and I agreed to do this today. And I'm delighted that in Singapore, Germany has such a reliable partner in the region. This is also very important because the crises of our time, from climate change to the war in Ukraine, are a clear illustration of the one fact that there is no power in the world that can tackle these challenges single-handedly. The world is becoming multipolar. We all need partners. We all rely on multilateral cooperation, and we need a stable multilateral international order. That is the only way for us to successfully tackle present and future crises. Perhaps I may add the following point. Over the last few years of the life of Helmut Schmidt, I talked many a time, and he was a man who held Singapore in great respect and always reminded me of that impressive rise of the country, which had very much to do with upholding respect for international law and cooperating in the process of globalization. And I think that that is a good reminder to address to all of us of what we need to do with an eye to the future.
Thank you, Chancellor. Now we'll invite the media to offer their questions. May I recognize Ms. Louisa Tang from Singapore? If you can stand up so the camera can see you. Thank you very much.
Chancellor, you have been to Vietnam and now Singapore with a large German business delegation with you. What is your sense of the opportunities in Southeast Asia and the role of Singapore for German businesses?
Thank you for your question. I think it's obvious that the world will change, and Southeast Asia will play a very important role in the world to come. And so we are working very hard to cooperate, to develop our already good relations, and also to prepare our cooperation and our relation with the whole region for the future. And there is a lot of advantages there are a lot of advantages we can reach and we can work for. And this is why I'm here with this business delegation. And I can just tell you that all the business leaders I met here from Germany told me that they are very convinced that this will be a very good future if we cooperate, and they are willing to do, we too.
Thank you. May I recognize Michael Fisher?
Vielen Dank, Herr Bundeskanzler. Sie reisen heute Abend noch zum G20-Gipfel.
Tonight you will continue to the G20 summit in Bali. We hope that the G20 will take a clear stance against the use of nuclear weapons. Do you see a chance for Russia to also accept such a commitment?
Singapore is also taking part in the G20 summit as a guest country. What is the most important issue from your point of view? And what has to happen in Bali to make the summit a success?
Sorry, catch a question again. Most important issue where?
Most important issue at the G20 summit in Bali, and what has to happen there to make the summit a success?
Go ahead.
Es ist schwer absehbar, was am Ende dieses
It is difficult to foresee the outcome of the upcoming summit in Bali and to say what can be achieved by way of a result. We are working to the best of our abilities to reach agreement on topics that are the focus of the world's attention: climate change, economic developments, and also, of course, the questions that turn around peace and the impact of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. This is going to be it's going to demand quite an effort on our part. It will take a lot of our time and, as I said, effort.
Well, I think all the difficult issues are on the table at the G20. Climate change is there, the global economy is there, security issues are there, including Russia and Ukraine. I do not expect any breakthrough on any of them. I hope that there will be a consensus on most of them, on the general direction to move ahead. I believe that on a few particularly vexed issues, consensus will be extremely difficult to achieve. But we accept that as it is. This is not a situation like it was after the global financial crisis when the G20 came together and made dramatic moves and saved the financial system and saved the world. We are in danger. On climate, you're heading in the wrong direction. On geostrategic issues, the problems are worsening rather than improving, and we need to make progress at them. Some will happen when we meet formally in the G20. Some will happen on the sidelines. I think Mr. Xi and Mr. Biden are having their discussions today, which will probably be more consequential than anything we can settle in the G20. But I believe that the opportunity for the leaders to get together, to engage with one another, and speak and hear one another will help us to be able to grapple with the issues and, I hope, make more progress.
Thank you, Prime Minister. May I recognize Mr. Gordon Rupinski?
Herr Bundeskanzler, eine Frage. Sie haben ja auch die geopolitischen Spannungen in der Region erwähnt, war ja auch Thema des Gesprächs. Können Sie uns einmal erklären, was Deutschlands Rolle im Fall einer möglichen Eskalation in Taiwan sein kann, sicherheitspolitisch, verteidigungspolitisch? Werden wir eventuell sogar mehr militärische Präsenz hier in Deutschland sehen, abseits von den Eurofightern oder der Fregatte, die wir hier schon gesehen haben? And Mr. Prime Minister, you also mentioned the collaboration in the marine systems.
Sorry, okay, say again.
Okay. Mr. Prime Minister, you also mentioned the close cooperation between Singapore and Germany in the field of marine and military systems. Have you discussed further projects than the submarine that you mentioned, and what would you particularly be interested in?
The answer is I do not know the answer, and if I did, I probably wouldn't be telling you.
Das könnte von mir sein.
That could have been me. That could have been me.
This was a joke just for the German press. So, wir haben natürlich gesprochen und wir
Of course,
haben uns auch
we
gemeinsam Gedanken
talked
gemacht
about and we exchanged thoughts about the security of the region per se. And it is important that we all insist that a rules-based order continue to determine relations between countries. This is true for the freedom of navigation. It is also true for the importance of all of us adhering to the rules that the UNCLOS has set, so that it is not the might of a country that determines developments in this sphere. But this also goes for economic ties between our countries, and we are pleased about the opportunities that have been opened up by us cooperating with ASEAN, and that has an effect on the security situation too. In more concrete terms, as far as Taiwan is concerned, all our endeavor aims to ensure that there will not be a violent escalation of the situation there. I've engaged with the Chinese president about this, and on this we've made it very clear that that is a development that we do not want to see happen, and that is what we stand by.
Now I recognize the last question from Singapore media, Ms. Eileen Ho.
Hi, good evening. I would like to ask PM, so how would you like to see Germany engage Southeast Asia? And to Chancellor, what does not decoupling from China means for Germany in Southeast Asia?
You want me to go, please? Okay. Well, we'd like to see a broad and deep engagement between Germany and Southeast Asia, with ASEAN, with the individual countries, and certainly with Singapore. And with Singapore, we are talking about a wide range: economic cooperation, trade, investments, tourism, also security issues. I talked about defense cooperation, defense technology, also things like counterterrorism, extremism, also public health, pandemics, and R&D cooperation, because we're talking about climate change and hydrogen technologies, and these are areas, all of these are areas which we can work together. I told the Chancellor just now that Germany's engagement and German companies' engagement in Singapore go back a very long way. We've got companies which have been here 100 years, like Siemens. And we have companies which are really brand new and are, I hope, going to be here for the next 100 years, like BioNTech, which is setting up their regional center here and will be making vaccines here. So if we can continue that depth and that consistency, whatever happens up and down in the region and in the world, then this mutual cooperation will deliver benefits for both sides for a long time to come.
We are against a decoupling of China in the world economy because we are deeply convinced that globalization has brought a lot of progress to the world and created a wealthier world with 1 billion or more people growing up to a middle class. I think we should not destroy the advantages coming from that. But we have to be clear that globalization also means not just to look to one country, but to other countries in the world, and especially also to the other Asia. And this is why this conference this is held here in Singapore is so important for the German economy, because this is a really pragmatic way to deal with that situation. And so the answer is looking to China, that we are asking for real access, for developing to a market economy, for obeying intellectual property rights, and the investment conditions should be fair for the companies going there and investing. And for the rest of the strategy, it means that we are looking to diversify our supply chains, to look where we can go to get raw materials and industrial products from that we are needing for the development of our economies, and how we can work on developments that make it clear that some aspects of research, development, and progress, and also production are also relevant, for instance, for Europe or for Germany. May it be battery factories which are built now all over Europe and also in Germany. May it be electrifying our cars, may it be artificial intelligence, may it be computing aspects of computing, may it be the question of how we deal with telecommunication, may it be the question of hydrogen, and so on. So we are working in these fields, and semiconductors is, for instance, a field where we think production should be also in Europe. And this is the strategy we follow.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end of the joint press conference.
Thank you.